World War I left a lasting mark on military doctrine. Breaking through trenches and networks of fortified positions proved to be a very important but incredibly difficult challenge. And for a long time, no one could find the perfect solution. There was artillery, there was air power, there were other long-range strike options. But what the reality of the battlefield really demanded was a protected, reasonably mobile vehicle that could punch through enemy lines. Over time, that need gave rise to the idea of the super heavy tank, a kind of mobile fortress. One such vehicle was the Tortoise, a true moving bunker wrapped in thick armor and armed to the teeth. Of course, the Tortoise wasn't the first of its kind. A team of experienced engineers had been working on the TOG super heavy tanks even before World War II kicked off. But by 1943, that concept was already showing its age. For assaulting fortified positions, Britain was also experimenting with the Excelsior and the heaviest Churchill variants, but even those didn't seem tough enough. The requirements were brutal. At least 150 millimeters of frontal armor, on par with the King Tiger, and nearly the same protection on the sides and rear. This mobile fortress had to survive mine blasts and anti-tank gunfire. Britain knew that absolute invincibility was a fantasy, but they figured that even a small run of these vehicles would prove useful on the front lines. This new vehicle was developed as part of the AT, or Assault Tank project, helmed by Nuffield. Engineers quickly ditched the turret. They figured it would just create weak points, so they went for a casemate design with solid armor plates. Tank designers ran through at least 18 different configurations, steadily increasing the weight and protection. Special attention went into the 94mm gun. Its ballistics were comparable to post-war guns like the L7, and its firepower posed a real threat to even the King Tiger and Jagdtiger. In 1944, the AT-16 configuration was approved. A fixed casemate mounting the main gun, a small cupola for a machine gun, and frontal armor exceeding 220 millimeters. But series production ended up being just 6 units. By the time the vehicle was ready, the war was over, and the order for 25 tanks was promptly canceled. The Tortoise did manage to undergo trials in Germany, proving the most important thing: the armor and gun were genuinely formidable. But its mobility didn't fit the post-war reality, and the project was scrapped, much like what happened to most super heavy tanks, including the American T-95. In War Thunder, however, the Tortoise gets to fight at its own pace. It stands out as one of the most survivable Rank 4 vehicles in the British tech tree. What sets it apart from other tank destroyers isn't just the armor, it's the unconventional layout. On the surface, it looks rather standard: engine in the back, transmission in the front at the bottom of the hull. But where's the driver? He's actually tucked into the upper right front. The gunner sits just below. And with a crew of 7 spread throughout the fighting compartment, even shells with lots of explosive matter struggle to knock this monster out with one decisive hit. Let's take a look at the armor of the casemate. The cheeks are 152 millimeters thick, while the lower front plate measures 170 millimeters. Keep in mind that the Tortoise's frontal protection really shines at medium to long range. At a slight angle, it becomes nearly impervious to guns from Rank 4 and even Rank 5. The key is to use the vehicle's excellent gun depression, up to 10 degrees. Keep your distance from the enemy, and take the high ground whenever possible. If an opponent gets above you, your glacis plate immediately becomes a weak spot. The Tortoise's gun lives up to the hype. It's got a solid rate of fire compared to its peers and punches right through King Tiger turrets and Soviet IS tanks without breaking a sweat. American heavies require a bit more precision. Aim for their weak spots like the LFP. The armor-piercing shells don't carry explosive filler, but their post-penetration damage is no joke. These nearly 15-kilogram slugs hit like a freight train. The vehicle's real Achilles heel is its weight and speed. It tops out at a sluggish 19 kilometers an hour, and it takes its sweet time getting there. On the flip side, it reverses just as fast, which is handy. As such, the Tortoise is the ultimate vehicle for positional warfare. Pick your direction early, lock down a key street or firing lane, and let your armor and gun depression do the work. Just try to protect the commander's cupola on the roof. One well-placed hit there can destroy the vehicle in an instant. All things considered, the Tortoise is one of the most effective tank destroyers at rank 4, ready to deliver plenty of wins for players who think ahead. Despite all of its flaws, the Tortoise made it to at least limited production, something very few super heavy tanks ever achieved. The age of mobile fortresses ended with the war, but in War Thunder, this British beast still finds its true calling on hilly maps and urban locations. Do you enjoy fighting in the Tortoise? Share your thoughts in the comments down below.